All right, thank you everybody. Welcome to the December 11th, 2023 regular meeting of the Jamaica Select Board. And thank you all of those from the public who have joined, including Laura Spielman, our representative. First things first, call for any late additions to the agenda. I have one, just in case nobody else does. Okay, I'm gonna invite Laura shortly to talk to us about a study that's been undertaken over quite 3 years.
Three studies.
Three studies. But there was one that was just finished, right? On modifications, updates, enhancements, modernization of Act 250 and its application to towns. And as everybody knows, we're a 1 acre, 10 acre town. So what might that mean for us? So Laura's going to do that after we talk about our storm preparedness. Any other topics? Any additions? No. Thank you. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from the November 27th regular meeting of the Select Board.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Do we have Mike? Yes, we
Mike's
do.
on.
Okay.
Zoom.
So we're gonna quickly go through our regular FEMA, and now I've decided I'm gonna also call them storm preparedness topics. I think, do we have any RFP updates from Goodville? Or no?
I can comment.
Can you? Okay, great.
I mean, basically, the most recent RFPs have all, the major ones have all been completed other than Old Route 8, which is in progress right now. I'm not quite sure exactly how far along it is, but Goodville Road Bridge, temporary bridge abutment repairs have been made, and the bridge is open. It's been open for a couple of weeks. It was the day after, I think, our last meeting.
Okay. Right.
The Wyndham, the West Wyndham Bridge in West Wyndham, that approach to the bridge has been hardened and basically lowered to kind of act as a spillway to take some stress off the bridge. So that work has been complete. That was part of the scope of the RFP, hardening of the bank where the road had washed out, but that basically bring the roadbed surface down approximately a foot.
Is that everything that Hunter's doing now before winter, or?
Hunter's projects are done. That was one he was working on. Actually, Hunter still has one that's pending that at the transfer station.
Yeah.
But all the road projects, and I think A.S. Clark is done with their stuff too. So we're not all of our projects, but all of our current out to bid projects are complete for this.
Other than Old Route 8.
Other than Old Route 8.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
Did I miss anything, Mike? You're muted. There we go.
Yep. You did a great job, Greg. You everything I
It's getting easier as we complete that.
Right, all right.
We do have NRCS USDA that we wanted to kind of discuss with the select board, though. About 7 properties were eligible for some level of funding. Of the 21 properties and issues that we submitted, 6 were denied, and then there were another 6 properties that no determination was rendered. We did send that list of properties over to Vermont Emergency Management as well to get their thoughts on maybe potential buyouts or other options that may be afforded to these property owners.
So before we move on, is that something that there's aid at the legislative level for the 6 that were denied and the 6 that, I don't even know what that means if they didn't render a decision? Or is it not? Is there not really an intersection with state?
Are you talking to Vermont Emergency Management at all about this? Have you heard anything from them?
This is addressed to you, Mike, from Laura.
Yes, we have made inroads with Vermont Emergency Management on the buyouts as well and what steps we need to take. And kind of really I'm asking for a little direction from the select board too on whether I should just approach these property owners or if there's another way they would like this matter handled. Because, half of the folks are probably going to hear that they're not eligible and will be seeking other kind of hopeful remedies. So we are kind of looking at those options, but we don't have any as yet for these individuals.
Is it up to us to do that?
It's not up to us to do that, and we have to be very careful because we have limited resources, and we have put in a fair bit of time, Mike in particular, to assist in the original application on behalf of these, 24 plus landowners, homeowners in Vermont, in the town. So, emergency management, what do they have to offer that's different from NRCS and?
I don't know that they do. I'm just wondering, but I would think that they would have a sense of where to go for potential buyout dollars. It would be great to have, so I'm happy to at least know with a little more detail for thinking.
Great.
Just kind of how many and
right.
What's happened to
So
them.
6 denials, 6 no determination, which I don't quite understand what that means. Like, is that just another way of saying no, or they need more? Did they say, Mike, do they need more information?
The properties were kind of the second or third round of damaged properties that I got. Most of them aren't really near streams. They had issues with water intrusion in the buildings, but they weren't next to streams, so it kind of threw NRCS, I think, out of that area of consideration. There may be other options with the watershed, the floodplain group through DEC that does the buyouts, but they do have a program for properties outside of the special flood hazard area, and that's one of the options that we're kind of pursuing now.
Right. And then those that were granted, and we'll just share you the letter, some people got pretty substantial funding, so we were pretty pleased for, some of our residents in terms of the outcome of Mike's efforts. So thrilled with that, and, the various organizations. But that's where it is. So I think we'll just send it to you. Is that?
Yeah,
so
I'd be happy to know if there's kind of an emergent problem that is not being resolved, right? So this stuff takes a long time, as you all know very well.
Right.
So if there's a problem that's not getting resolved, in the end, that we need to think about, we are going to need to think about it. How do we help people get out of harm's way?
Right, exactly.
And,
exactly.
If the feds aren't paying for it.
Then how do we do it? So this will give you at least a visual, specifically the 6 that are, in essence, probably not being, there's no determination because they don't obviously fit in a paradigm, and yet it is flooding that caused the damage. It just wasn't from, a house that's along a river or other known waterways. So that is definitely, it's not just Jamaica, I hear that from other towns also.
A feature of this flood was obviously runoff from mountainsides. It's not funny, but that was something that happened around my house and a lot of my customers. Something not seen that much.
So I think this letter will give you a little bit of a graphic, demonstration of that. So the next topic is the BRIC study, which I think might be interesting. This is Mike's and others' efforts to corral a group of towns that comprise the 2 main watersheds that contributed to Jamaica's damages. So Mike, can you talk to everybody, and in particular Representative Sibilia, about where things stand on the BRIC study?
Sure. Vermont Emergency Management, Stephanie Smith was one of the people involved in this communication, had mentioned that the town of Jamaica would be eligible for engineering services that would also provide some scoping benefits to the community and kind of identifying what the issues are related to flooding in our town. And one of the things that they look at is river dynamics, and they'll try to develop a list of projects based on our particular situation. And it sounds like at least this one project that would be developed, or at least a minimum of one, would be free to the town. But there is another program through hazard mitigation that we could also exercise, and that would represent a 25% cost share. We haven't identified anything, but that might be a subsequent study. Hopefully we can use the monies being offered, or this program being offered through Vermont Emergency Management, to kind of help get us started. And we're also looking at the Long Island Sound watershed. They have some grant opportunities starting in March of next year that we're going to take a look at too, because we do fall within that watershed that comes from the Connecticut River.
I know, it sounds a little funny, right? But yeah.
Correct, yes.
Yeah.
There may be monies available for both Jamaica and other towns kind of dealing with this type of situation.
Right, and what, in terms of watershed, like Stratton, Wind Hall, et cetera, that group effort, that's, you know, that's what here's Stratton, and these are the two branches of the Ball Mountain Brook that fed into, you know, the West River here. So this, you know, first of all, the tremendous damage on Pikes Falls Road, so there's a watershed that way. Now, we're not necessarily saying they're bad actors or things, but certainly this needs to be a multi-town effort to address, and that's nice.
And then looking up the west also in Wind Hall Brook and into Wind Hall and the west into Londonderry, I mean, and I know Londonderry has expressed to me keen interest in participating in these types of things. I'm not quite sure how much other full buy-in, so to speak, we have from Stratton or Wind Hall, but I think conceptually we got to look at these as regional problems and not just all what's happening right through town here. Excuse me, sorry.
I would say Wardsboro for the Wardsboro proposal.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mike, are you at liberty to say which project is free to Jamaica?
I think that's what the study will kind of determine what would be beneficial to the town. It probably would be up to the town to decide which project, but that would be part of that engineering phase, I think, to determine what we might be afforded through this program.
Okay.
We don't know as yet, I guess.
One of the discussions that is happening right now, along with the Act 250 and resilience discussions, which I expect will kind of come together, is the state taking over regulating of the rivers.
No kidding.
How's that land?
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's taking over of regulating rivers and taking it from the Army Corps or who? I mean,
Well,
FEMA or what? Yeah. I guess I'm confused.
so that you all are not like, I don't have the details.
Okay.
But discussion about the state, towns,
Rather than each town being on its own, in essence, to find money, find answers for its roads, its infrastructure, its homes. Instead, there could be a state level view.
of the rivers. That does not mean roads, homes.
Well, the two are related in the sense that, you know, what happens because of activity in multi-town sheds, watersheds, is that it impacts this and that destroys roads and homes. Same, you know, the burden on, you know, the Ball Mountain Dam, you know, that's multiple towns. So if each town is a silo, right, we're all, you know, there's no addressing, you know, how watersheds might be addressed. There might be smaller dams that have impacts, you know, like incremental damming or looking at impervious coverage, blah, blah, blah.
It will definitely be a conversation to watch.
In this coming legislative session, you think?
Yeah, I believe it's a proposal that's going to be put on the table, probably in my committee. I'll be very interested once I have more of the language around the proposal and folks' thoughts around it. You know, one of the things I worry about, there's a number of things I worry about. One of the things I worry about in terms of the state taking that over, which seems like a good idea in many aspects, is whether or not we are staffed appropriately to be of service to communities and people that live along the rivers. So, if they're, and experience kind of points to they might
Maybe
not
they
be.
not be.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Is that part of Governor Scott's vision to prevent some flooding.
I don't know if that's coming from the governor. I don't know if that.
Flood mitigation and all of that he's talking about, or is that something completely different?
I'm not exactly sure what he is envisioning. Not exactly sure what he's envisioning. I think he's envisioning making sure that federal dollars, when they come in, are used to make sure that people are safe. But there's more work to be done in addition to just responding when something happens. Like, we need to get in front of this stuff, which is happening more and more frequently. So I'm not sure where the governor stands in terms of the regulation of the river. Something tells me that would not be, but as part of this larger conversation around Act 250, there's a lot of people putting things on the table that they wouldn't necessarily take it back to that.
If there are any other questions, I think that's a good segue to the Act 250 discussion. Anything else on the FEMA? And I could talk about numbers after, because I'd like to take advantage of Laura being here. So one of the reasons why I was very happy that Laura was coming is because I've been spending some time taking a look at the most recent study that was commissioned legislatively on the status of Act 250, its evolution, what's best. Just as a quick reminder, we're a 1 acre, 10 acre town. That means if you want to engage in a commercial activity on a property that's greater than an acre, you need an Act 250 permit. And if you want to undertake a residential subdivision of greater than 10 acres, you need an Act 250 permit. But other than that, you're free and clear. And Jamaica has, as we all know, very limited zoning. We don't approve subdivisions. We don't, we have floodplain zoning, and I guess road curb cut type permits, but really nothing else. So there's, in case anybody's interested, and I can put it on the website with Sarah, but there is I guess it's kind of a presentation of the results of this study on the 14th or 15th this week? Thursday. It's on Thursday. And I think it'll be very interesting, and there are proposals for significant changes. So can I ask you to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So the study that you, I think, are referencing is the necessary changes to Act 250 that was conducted by the Natural Resources Board. There were a number of stakeholders there looking at the changes that we need to see as part of this. It appears to be closely coordinated with a study that was done by VAPTA, which is the Vermont Association of Planning and Development Organizations. It's the RPCs organizations across the state. So they were asked to look at, how could we do statewide mapping around some of our natural resource areas. And there's a third study which is looking at the designations. So you don't have a village. Do you have a village designation here?
No.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Okay.
Sorry, my bad. It was long before my time. I don't
There's village, downtown, then there are neighborhood development areas. There's a bunch of different types of designations that are put in place for a whole bunch of different reasons. Sometimes it's tax credits or technical assistance or marketing dollars or planning for growth. And so last year with the housing bill, we were looking at and were successful in getting some exemptions for areas that had designations, but the environmental community was pretty concerned about that, saying a lot of these designations really had nothing to do with putting housing or development there. And so we really think you need to look at all of the designations and make them make some sense. So that work is also going on. I think that will be probably less impactful. We'll probably, those will be famous last words, that'll be the big thing. I think the recommendation is to have really one type of designation that's in draft format right now. And then back to the
necessary changes.
Necessary changes. What you're looking at is really the proposal that is out right now, and I encourage folks to go up on the website and look at it. I'm not going to quote it, word for word here, but conceptually, it's 3 different tiers that you're looking at. So, first tier is looking at, the RPCs, we're also looking at municipal delegation. So in places where there is robust zoning and zoning enforcement, can we, that's at least as much as Act 250, which is really hard for me to appreciate, can we designate and let the town do their own permitting and not subject those places to Act 250. So we're looking at 3 tiers. One, right now, 23 towns are estimated to be places where that could happen, and you would have an Act 250 exemption for building in those places. Then you have a tier 2, which is towns that have robust zoning, sewer, and water could apply to become exempt. And then the rest of the state, places that don't have robust zoning, or water, or sewer, or have these really special natural resource areas, would just be kind of blanket Act 250 permit needed to do any development there. So that's a proposal that's out there. There's part of this is the RPCs working with the municipalities to map the state. There's the A&R map right now that's up. Looking at the other piece of Act 250 from when it was first put in place around planning, which is not really something that's robust and done well here in terms of stop. Right now Act 250 kind of stops things, but you don't actually kind of pre-plan things. So something to watch. There's been a lot of work that's been done. There are a lot of agreements. Interestingly enough, the one that came out of the Natural Resources Board, the group that worked on it said we've come to consensus on this package. If you were to pull one piece out or the other piece out or this piece out, there would not be consensus. So there's a lot of trade-offs that people are putting on the table. The forest fragmentation is on there, road rule is on there, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's a real, it's a watch out for us, because we would go to being any subdivision subject to Act 250. So it's, if we, under those proposed guidelines. Mm-hmm. So definitely something to watch, and that's gonna be in your committee this session, right? Yeah.
Yes, and I expect Senator Harrison may also see parts of it, because I do think the resilience, housing, and Act 250 discussions end up coming together. So she's on the Housing and Commerce Committee in that.
Okay. So would there be joint hearings or what?
It depends on the chairs. I would think not in this case.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for coming. Anybody have any other questions for Laura?
Are you staying or are you leaving?
I have a capstone project that I need to
Yes.
So if there's other questions.
Oh, Karen, who's behind you, who you know.
Are you still planning to come Thursday night at 6 o'clock?
I am, yes.
Would you like to just?
Yes, I will be here Thursday night, 6 o'clock, 6 to 7 here. Karen and I have hung out and had wonderful chats the last few times that I've been here. Usually my office hours are not super well attended, but that's okay.
And you're here in this room?
Yes,
Okay.
or yes, if I figure out getting a key. Otherwise, we sip coffee out in the parking lot and wait for people to show up.
For what? For what?
Office hours, Laura's office hours.
Okay.
As
Open
a
door.
representative.
Yeah.
Yes.
And chat, so.
Yes.
Yes, and if I could just, while I have you all.
Yes.
If you need help, here is the best that you think I can give you. There are 2 things that I would ask you to do. First of all, in the email, if you send me an email and tell me what the problem is and where you're getting stuck, what the solution you're looking for is, I will literally take that email and forward it in and use that to try and assist. And then send me a text and let me know that you've done that, because sometimes my email does get overloaded. And my cell phone number is up on my website. So don't hesitate to reach out if there's a problem that you're stuck on. And if you don't hear from me in a timely fashion, also don't hesitate to knock on my cell phone.
Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
Laura, can you mention the MTAP program, the municipal
Oh, yes.
technical assistance program that we're eligible for?
Yes. Oh, gosh, I know, I was just telling Karen this. So, Municipal Technical Assistance Program, this is something actually the Borough Caucus that I'm on and co-chair in the House, and the administration pulled together a proposal with great support from the Speaker of the House for last year's budget adjustment. And the point there that we were hoping for was there's all of this federal funding that has come in through COVID and now with the disaster, and there are a number of towns that don't have appropriate capacity or enough capacity to realize. I mean, these are kind of like watershed funds. We're not going to see this type of funding again. Like what's come in through ARPA, I mean, probably, hopefully, yeah. So, the worry was that we are leaving some of our smallest communities and least resourced communities further behind in this moment with all of this. So we wanted to make sure that there was technical assistance.
You need money to get money, kind of thing?
Basically, yeah, technical assistance. And so the RPCs, there were a couple of other entities, were funded to go and work with a list of towns that were determined to be the most neediest. So this would be no town manager, or administrator, income levels, and I think, that was it. So there was an index that was developed on that. Then we had flooding, and so then the flooding started to roll into this as well. So the first wave of MTAP went through municipal technical assistance, and basically what that means is the RPC would come in and help you develop a project. If there are projects that you want to develop to take advantage of or
Get money for it.
yes, sure. Or even have a conversation about what do we need to do in our town. Like in some communities it's that level. So there was not as much uptick on the first wave, which was a little stressful for those of us that were watching. We're worried that there wasn't enough kind of engagement in towns. So they've gone to the second level. You guys are in the second level because of the flooding.
Okay.
And so, I don't know, Mike, have you heard from Wyndham Region on this? You're muted.
You're on mute.
Yeah, I did speak with Chris briefly.
Yeah.
I mentioned that you were going to be in town later this week, but I think he's got a conflicting meeting. But I did ask that maybe he could engage himself with you early in January on our behalf. But nothing recently on the MTAP.
Yeah,
Does that assistance have to be related to flooding, since that's how we qualify?
I don't believe it does.
Okay.
But, I would have to look at the,
So a question I have as a former librarian in Jamaica is there's a lot of library money coming in for small rural libraries. And I know that the town could use some support in planning, strategic planning, working with the library board, thinking about how to access that money to get some upgrades to the money is meant for capital improvements, and that building needs some work. So that's something that I'd love to know if that could be
MTAP could support that.
something that we could get support for.
so I can't guarantee you, but it sounds like exactly the type of.
Great.
that
I'm gonna
we-
put that bug in your ear,
Yeah.
and I'll reach out to the board for the library as well, because I've been sort of chewing on that and working on that, and Mike has as well. But it's been a slow process, so I think it'd be great if we could have some support for that.
Yeah, I do think it would be good to get confirmation soon.
Yes.
That you are, like, so from
Chris, who would give us?
Chris or Doug Farnham.
I
Who
see
is-
his email too.
Yeah, he's, pretty overwhelmed, so at least getting confirmation that you.
That we're eligible.
That you're eligible, yeah. So
Okay.
I just believe you are on the list that I saw, so,
Okay,
okay?
great.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mike.
So Mike, if I can help, let me know, okay? So, but I think we want to get confirmation sooner rather than later, official confirmation. So I would suggest
Will do.
sending an email to Doug.
Okay. Thank
Short and
you.
sweet, so,
All right.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Yeah.
okay? All right,
Thank you.
happy holidays, everybody. Happy New Year if I don't see you.
Bye, thank you.
Or, unless you're here on Thursday. With Karen.
All right, terrific. So, the next item on the agenda is just I'm gonna give a quick high-level report on the audited financial statements. For, two reasons. One, Terry's passing, and also then we had our flood event. With agreement of our independent audit firm, we pushed out the audit a little later. They were on site for 3 days, as they always are. Sarah was still alone at that point. Thank you, Sarah, again. She had to run the office and put together what is a very substantial amount of information. This is my first time going through the audit process. And for those of us in the room that have experience with for-profit financial statement assembly and reading and auditing, this is a really different animal. So it was, at least for me, very interesting, and I think for Sarah also, a bit of an eye-opener. So overall, and then Sarah, of course, anything you want to chime in, please let me know. So I don't think we were too surprised. We, at the time that we put together the budget 1 year ago, Terry had come to us as the then select board saying, look, we're gonna have to increase the budget. I mean, we knew that, that's why, the municipal budget, on top of, the expenses, the education budget and the state budget went way up, our budget also went up. So we kind of managed to squeak through the prior year. We do have one bit of good news that our auditor, reminded us, which is that in 2021, after the July flood, we had our FEMA portal set up and we did our projects at that time. And in fact, several of those projects were provisionally approved, in essence, to the tune of somewhere around $570,000, and we are now, with Mike's help, closing the loop on finalizing that paperwork, so that those are funds that will come in this current fiscal year, which is terrific. It doesn't help us the last fiscal year, but the next fiscal year. There are a couple, in addition to the actual just preparation of the financial statements and the notes to the financial statements, there are audit findings every year. And I haven't looked at past year findings, but I think there's some rollover findings that, Sarah and I, and together with Mary's assistants, feel like we really need to address. So of those, 4 are what I would put in the nature of, we don't have written policies for certain things. And that's just kind of a no-brainer. And there's just we're gonna take care of those these years. We're gonna put them in place. There are good samples, there are good examples from the LCT, and Sullivan Powers, our audit firm, can also just be a second set of eyes to make sure that what we're putting in place is right. Another 3 or 4 were what I put in the category of like assessments that we need to undertake, things that they looked at and said, I'm not sure you're doing this the right way, whether it's tracking the transfer station revenue or what have you. And they felt we needed to take a look at that and come up with a recommendation for how potentially to do it. A very small handful are items where we actually need a body that we don't have on site, where you need another set of eyes. So someone who's not writing a check, someone who's not approving a check, someone, who's looking at where it's coming from in terms of the general ledger, actually cutting the check, signing it, what have you. And so as a select board, Sarah and I are gonna come back and say, we most likely need a consultant to come in at least once a month is what we talked about. Hopefully we can keep it to once a month to look at certain items that where someone else needs to tick in time, who is not an employee, who's not operations in terms of taking in cash or dispensing cash. So that will come back. Then the largest number, so there were 7 sets of internal procedures that need to be documented, where someone who comes in as an auditor can't say, here, I can see how you're doing this. And that's another one which I think of as kind of in the nature of low-hanging fruit, but it will take a little bit more work. It's not just finding a policy that we can kind of get mostly off the shelf. We have to document it, and we're in agreement, we're going to do it, but that's going to be some work. I don't know which of these we actually bring to the board, if any, but I will come back to you. Certainly the fact that we might bring someone, we do need to bring someone in on a monthly basis, so I would bring that back. Certainly we would make them available to anyone, but I don't think these are things in the nature that they require resolution of the board. And then 2 kind of slightly random ones. One is that we have money that we have tried to pay to people, and those checks are not cashed. And there is what's called an escheat law in Vermont, as there is in every law. And technically, if you try again to find these people, get them their money, but if after, I think it's 5 years in Vermont, I'd have to look back at that, it's supposed to go to the state. That money you're supposed to write a check to the state. So this is something which I think has been on our findings list for a while, and it's one of those things that nobody likes to. Private corporations are subject to the same requirement. If a private corporation has a shareholder they can't pay the dividend to, after 5 years you're supposed to pay that dividend to the state. So it's not unique to municipalities. The last point is one which I think I've talked to some members of the board about, and it's going to come up in our budget, which is that after Irene, we were left with a deficit in our flood fund. So the way, and again, I'm not going to explain this elegantly because I'm new to municipal accounting and nonprofit. I have some experience, but instead of money comes in when it comes in through taxes, and it gets allocated to certain funds. The funds pay for things that you need, and one of them is our flood recovery fund or flood relief fund. So there was a deficit of over $800,000 left after Irene. So we are, without parsing it too finely, technically, statutorily, we as a town are obligated to refund that money. We have to put that money back in. We have not been doing that at all. So we're going to start, and I'm just letting everybody know in the public venue that at our budget meeting, we're going to discuss how to do that, how much money to allocate in the budget every year to allocate to replenishing the flood relief fund. I think especially now. None of us is gonna really object considering what we face, including today, with flooding. So that's my summary. I'm sorry it was probably a little more tedious than I meant it to be, but this way. Yes, please.
For 3 years, those guys have been saying we needed to pay back the money we borrowed from Irene. And now, the other thing.
Yeah.
Well, that we should pay it back faster. We were paying some. And then I mentioned it and I got pushback that it was a low interest, we didn't need to worry about. So that, we talked about this before and it just didn't do it. So, and then the other thing was, I don't know why they picked me 3 times, or I was around and they talked, the same guys?
Yeah, Jordan's been the
Okay.
same. Yeah, the assistants aren't. It's a change, but-
About checking on the check writing, they told me it could be one on the select board, it could be, it could be someone from the outside, but that sounds a lot more stringent now than.
It's not just,
It was someone to check on besides when Lexa was doing the bookwork, it was
Well, Lexa
another
was
person to check all that.
Person.
Yeah, but they said that wasn't cool, that was okay, but they needed one more.
Right, it's
They
because
said
I
it
was
could even be-
involved in the bookwork.
It could even be me coming
Right.
in one day and looking.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
getting,
Right.
I don't want to do that, but you would be compensated, or someone from the outside. So these things have come up over the past 3 years, 2 of them.
right.
But they really were on it about paying back the money we borrowed for Irene. Those real low or no interest, right?
We borrowed
So
from ourselves.
We got to, took it from
Right, there's no interest,
Right.
right. In essence, it's like borrowing from yourself, but,
Right.
yeah,
There's an opportunity cost.
So there was
this town
some,
by not having it there, needing to borrow
Right.
more now.
right.
The board didn't want to do that, the boards I've been on. So now we're gonna,
Now we go.
because we got another flood,
Right.
and we're gonna have to, are we still gonna have to get a bond, or?
Yes, we will. I mean,
Okay.
it's, I don't know exactly when the 570,000 comes, so we're gonna go to Vermont Bond Bank. I have I need one more document.
And we have a
So I was
bond
working
on
it.
the town garage still.
So there's a bond on the town garage, which ostensibly, we haven't spent that entire bond. That was also in the findings.
Right, but it would have to be used for,
Does it have to be used for the garage?
it says related to the project, basically, from what I took out of it. Like, I'd have to reread it
But-
again, but it would have to be, but why would we want to borrow more money?
No, we've been
That's
paying
what I
that.
thought.
Why
I was
don't we pay
like,
that
no,
down?
why
Why
don't
don't
we
we
just
just
take it and
pay
pay
down?
down our bond, and then that lowers that.
That's gonna be my recommendation. Once we know the exact amount,
Yeah.
have the details, I'll come back to the
Do
board.
we really have it though, or is it just kind of a line of credit that we still have? I mean, or do we
No, it was
literally
money
have
that came in.
from the garage? That we
Yeah, from the, right, that we borrowed from Vermont Bond Bank.
Give it back.
Yeah, for the new garage, yeah. I mean, unless there was something we still needed to do there,
I don't think
I
so,
don't
I
know
think
anything.
they did everything.
Yeah, I'd rather pay it
That's
down.
before my time.
Right. right,
It's not related to the garage.
yeah, but not that we're taking it.
Yeah, they're contingent.
Any other questions on that? Thank you everyone for listening to that rather dry delivery. So next is the IT support RFP update. So there were 2 calls this week. Who wants to?
Oh, you skipped one.
You skipping?
Oh, what did I skip?
5?
Oh, the membership change. Oh my God. The alls are here like, oh, you skipped right over me. So, very sad to say. We're losing one of our select board members. Fortunately, they're not going far. So Derek and Susan are moving to Townsend. Newfane, excuse me. Yeah, even farther than Townsend. And so first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much. I know it was we really had to strong arm you to run for this seat. Poor
Been
thing.
great though.
And then, of course, we had the flood of, no longer the Century, but we had a major flood. Volunteers from the fire department, Susan was working at the library. It was kind of a big period of time. So I wanted to thank you both for your service while you have been Jamaica full-time residents. And so in January, we need to identify someone who we can appoint, who'd be willing to be appointed as our 5th member. So that was that update. So if anybody has someone they want to.
Yeah, I guess for the public, how should they just email you or the board?
Yep, very good, thank you. If anybody is interested, please email the town clerk or the assistant town clerk with your interest. You do need to be a citizen, so you have to be a resident of the town of Jamaica. But we are looking. So please do let us know if you're interested.
It's perfect climate, because basically it's just for the 2 months.
Till March.
Just till March,
Until town
it's easy,
meeting,
this
whether
is easy.
An open position will
Easy
open up.
peasy. If we can't, then we
Go with 4.
hobble along with 4.
But it's a great way to get the.
Right, it would be great, and let someone, kind of try it out, get their feet wet, and see if you wanna run, if you're, appointed, you're an incumbent, so, it's a little easier.
And I have a potential name all set.
Oh, wonderful!
Somebody who might be willing,
Thank you.
just for interim, not.
We're so
You
fun.
never know, they'll love him
want
so
to.
much, they'll stay in one role, right.
Get ready for dozens of emails.
I know,
I just will
You're gonna be swimming.
mention we need a health officer too.
Yes.
Certainly, that would be.
Same email address,
Same email address.
but thank you, both of you.
Yes, thank you both. We'll miss you in this role, although I'm sure we'll see you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
a consultant.
So the next is the IT RFP update. I was not at both calls, so anybody, maybe Mike, did you want to summarize the 2 beauty contest calls so far? Or Greg, whoever, I think you were both at both, right?
I can speak, or you can, Mike, when we were both at.
Go get him, Greg.
Okay, yeah, so we at our IT proposal for town services, basically our IT support, security to our network, our phone systems were 2 primary, not 2, but multiple, that's the basis of it. We had received 2 bids, 2 proposals, and they're fairly complicated, so we didn't immediately make a decision on them, but we've kind of vetted a little bit more on each of them and heard what they can offer and getting some ideas of how they might fit in with the town. So I felt very good about both of them, or each of them, that they would both be able to support what we were looking to do. And it's just a matter of, one might be better at one area than the other, and so to speak, and just to kind of, I think we should convene fairly quickly and just kind of get this going, at least to start the process.
Right. And I did bring the 3rd, and I feel bad about this. I thought I had sent the RFP to the right person at RCS, but if you want to, that's another option, just to talk to a 3rd, local provider.
Yeah, I don't know how that fits with having formally met the proposed deadline for the RFP,
Okay.
But either, I think, obviously the net result is we want the best provider. So I guess maybe if we're considering this as kind of a mini committee or whatever that we've.
More like a beauty contest than a formal RFP.
Yeah, but either way, I think we've got 2 good ones on the table right now, and we as a smaller group that have been working with this, you and I and Mike, and maybe we still consider it. I think we should have that conversation though.
What is the beauty contest? Is that a metaphor for something, or do you know, Derek, or?
Well, I think some of the.
It's a procurement term. It means like when you have someone come in and tell you about what they offer and how they approach it. So it's a beauty contest. That's probably not very, I'm showing my age with that one. That's probably not something people use anymore.
And I think the one thing
Kinda
that
like Chinese wall.
kind of came out of all this is we don't know what we don't know, so we don't know what we're looking for or what we need to know. IT and technology is advancing so quick, so we kind of put out a proposal that was encompassing of and maybe very generic, to just kind of get an idea of what we're looking for and kind of pull that together. So these 2 companies have come to us to say, here's what we can do. So that's
And we're budgeted to absorb this new upgrade.
We have
Are we or
some,
not?
we have
We did
some.
put some in last year.
Yeah, I mean, if we,
Yeah.
Some, what some?
I don't remember what
Are
the
we gonna
number
talk about this? It's not this budget.
is. It will be some in this
Well, some
budget
will
as we
be.
start to roll out, and then some in next budget.
And then budget.
It's not gonna be like, here, let's go buy a water bottle and it costs $10,000. It's gonna be, let's upgrade this software, let's put in another terminal over here, we need a new phone system, so it's gonna be some incremental kind of
Iterative.
stuff. I know there's money in there, it's not nearly enough to cover the full scope of what we're looking at. But there is some money that we did put in there last year, I just can't remember the exact number.
And we do have a reserve for like office equipment.
Right.
So like the server
The
itself
whole
could come out of that
system.
fund. You know, like the actual hardware could come out of the office equipment reserve.
Yeah.
Like the IT, I don't think could because it's a service and not an actual equipment.
Right.
That's my thought, I'm not sure.
With the third contractor, if it's outside of the date, legally, technically, would we have to reopen it to?
That I don't know, and that's what I have some concern about too.
Right, 'cause
I mean, I think-
otherwise,
right.
one of the ones who got it in could.
Here's the thing, I think unfortunately, we attempted to do it in the structure of a sealed bid, and in the end, it's like putting a square peg in a round hole. It had to be utilizing, a different procurement process. It's not, we didn't
We're not
have.
buying a truck, I mean, it's
We're
not
not
a
buying a truck.
defined thing.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's just, it's more, the process is iterative.
More consultative.
And we can still, the town is still, the board is entitled to make a selection based on, a less rigid procurement process, but it would be arguably an even more detailed procurement process because we have spent time with several people interviewing principals at these providers and, but it's not really comparing, with specs, and, timing. It's just, it's a little different. All right, thank you. So the next one, I'll be quick. So a couple of weeks ago, I attended a meeting at the sheriff's offices in Brattleboro. And actually, this is something I discussed with Laura Sevilla. So the issues that we find that we struggle with in terms of the structure of individual towns having individual contracts with sheriff's departments it's not unique to Jamaica. This is something a lot of towns struggle with. And it's needed because there's no regional support from a policing and enforcement perspective. You've got the state, and then you've got these kind of almost for-profit, but they're not for-profit, sheriff's departments that then contract with each town. There is a minimum that they support, that they provide in their region. So the Windham County Sheriff's Department has a minimum purview that it has to deliver to every town, but if you're a town and you want more, you don't have your own police department, you want more, you have to enter into this contract. And I was surprised to learn that in Windham County there are 11 municipal police departments. I was like, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I know, right? Doesn't that surprise you? I was shocked. But that, there's a lot of towns in Windham County. The rest of us are like Jamaica. So the sheriff of Windham County is, I would say, particularly dynamic among the sheriffs of the various counties. And he has, for some time, been espousing a much more robust regional sheriff policing model. It would require a legislative change, and he's been working with the legislature over, I think, like a 3-year horizon. And I'll circulate his slides. I have his slides from the meeting. And he is looking for not support in terms of writing a check or a formal vote, but he's He's gonna be going to the legislature, and Laura's aware of it, and she knows him. And he's also been working with Drew Hazelton because it's police and emergency, EMT services. And both the sheriff and Drew are aligned now in what they would want to support from a regional perspective. So they're going to the legislature in this upcoming session to get approved for a pilot program, where even though the legislative framework has not been changed, it would be allowed for Windham County to receive sheriff services on a regional basis. So it does still need to be worked out for towns like Jamaica that have a contract. Like, what do? You get rid of the contract, what have you. But I think there is a good chance that that might happen. So we may see Windham County being the pilot for regional delivery of services. And what that enables, just in terms of what we struggle with, not seeing visibility, not knowing where they are, not having, not getting the sheriff on 911, like 911 going through Walpole and, like literally New Hampshire and then bouncing back into Vermont. Those kinds of things would be resolved because there would be a guarantee of a minimum need for each town, and he could staff up for that need and for that budget, and he would centralize data for all towns, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll, like I said, I'll post the his rationale. But in any event, just wanted to let everybody know that this is on the horizon, and seems like there's a good chance that he'll get approved for this pilot.
Did he speak to, I couldn't go to that, and thank you for going. Mark is out, the Sheriff Anderson has been very frustrated with Vermont not having 24-hour police availability like we used to.
Right.
The state police, we had a lot of, we talked a lot, I didn't talk to him, on behalf of Jamaica, but I don't know if he mentioned that.
Yes, 24-hour service.
It's a safety issue that's in,
one of his goals. Yeah.
He thought it was outrageous that we don't have someone to call.
We've been on calls and they're like, state police, yeah, right, like
No,
literally
they
waiting
don't,
hours.
they're not here anymore.
Right, no,
It used to be all
No.
over the place
Right.
years ago.
That's a good,
All
I'm
night.
glad you raised it, because that's
All
one of
night,
the.
But he's very frustrated about that.
Yeah, well, that's, unless and until he's got a regional budget, he can't staff that. His department can't staff that. But he could.
But if we wanted to pay more, we'd see more police, right?
Not, see,
No, like,
here's
so
the
like
problem.
Stratton used to pay
Here's the problem.
$100,000.
I don't know that.
No, a bigger contract.
Right.
No, I'm
We
just
don't
saying.
see them at all, so why would we pay more?
No, I'm just saying that they offer more service for more money.
Right.
Right.
Stratton used to pay like $100,000 a year, and they had a little satellite police station up there, and then they said they didn't want them anymore.
No, they give their money to Winhall. Stratton is police, Stratton Security is through Winhall Police.
And an independent security company on top of that.
On top of it,
handles
yeah.
little things.
Yeah, but
They
that's
do house
just,
checks,
yeah.
kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
No, I totally agree with what, I'm not saying we should do that.
Well, and from what I understand, in years past, like the sheriff presence, it's not just about seeing him, it's also about the financials. And
Right.
I mean, I was told that sometimes the tickets, and fees and fines, which I'm not a fan of, but it's a reality, and it also curbs speed, it's a response.
Disincentive.
Right. That we would almost break even. And now I feel like we're just throwing money out into the wind.
No, I think that when it was working better, that we were able to keep, the town could keep half of what
Right.
was written.
Because you get half the
And that
tickets.
took like
It did
half,
break even.
10,000, up to $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what happened.
Half enough of this now. Yeah. So that was not, the meeting I attended was not the venue for that conversation,
Contract.
but
But
It's-
it's, so
yeah.
that's still on the table, and I guess maybe a different and I know we have public questions too, but a follow-up question directly for the sheriff is still, what happened? Why did they just absolutely stop having any presence from July onward, as opposed to, I mean, just.
No tickets.
Well, the
They
tickets
had
fell
presents,
off.
but there's no tickets.
I would argue that they haven't had a presence either. They might say it on paper, but anybody who lives on Main Street, this isn't just me, and I live and work on Main Street, so I literally see everybody else I've talked to, and, you know, it's a pedestrian neighborhood for those of us who live right here, hasn't seen sheriff in town at all, or on Route 30 at all since June.
I saw them this morning.
Yeah, I've seen them.
I got radar, they hit me with radar this
Traps and
morning.
how long?
Well,
Right in the village?
It's a matter of,
Driving out of here at 7 o'clock this morning, I got hit by one.
we have so few hours that we buy,
8
so to
o'clock.
speak.
They just
It's
like
late.
your car.
Maybe
it's
it was
my
you.
truck.
You're coming.
It's my truck.
And seeing them drive through is the same thing as actually seeing.
No, they were underway, they were underway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I'm not disagreeing.
I think we should talk about
We
that.
don't have enough presents, that,
Yeah, I will put that on, I'll put that on the menu.
On the
menu,
contract.
On the agenda.
Or if we want
You need to go
one.
home.
well,
I know, right?
well, I would
It's-
suggest we
yes.
have Mark come in.
Come in, yeah.
We missed him this year, he usually does come
When
in,
she's
Right.
glad to do it.
and, which
Right.
exactly,
Yeah.
I'll just offer
Yeah.
that this has been brought up since October, so
right.
we're gonna, it should be addressed, not just, oh, we'll talk about it next time. And I'm not saying right now, because I know the sheriff's not here, but
Well, let's
it's,
invite him to,
it's been
Yeah.
months.
and I'm gonna make a suggestion, we invite him to our first meeting in January.
Yeah,
Or, I mean,
first meeting in January.
yeah, I mean, that's our next meeting.
Andy, do you want to
Sure.
coordinate that? Thank you. All right, great.
Here we go.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
Quick question. In that meeting, did they talk about the coordination with the regionalization fantasy of the fire departments?
No, it was just EMT. It was just,
Well, you mentioned
yeah.
that Hazleton was involved. I wondered if they're also involved, because
No, and you know what? He did address that, Paul. I have to go back and look at my notes. There was some reason why it was not.
Yeah.
I apologize.
it's pretty
I'll look
confusing
it up.
within the service itself. The
Right,
entire region, people like it, people don't like it.
Right.
And we come to a meeting, eat pizza, and never make a decision.
right. But
It's
yeah,
not a bad
I'll
way
get
to
back
do
to
it.
you on that.
I also wondered about whether Greg Lakis might want to be, if you haven't already spoken to him.
You think he would?
Well, because of his role as the,
Emergency management.
right, that he might have a vested interest in the pilot.
To be involved in the
Oh,
conversation. just
yeah.
In the pilot
Oh,
project.
I thought you meant to be.
Oh, God, no.
I don't know what it is. All right.
No, sorry.
All right.
Thinking about the pilot project.
So they're not actually looking for volunteers from the town?
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying to be informed that that's potential.
Oh, it exists.
If he could offer support, you know, if they need a letter of support, that kind of thing, like,
Perfect.
he just came to mind.
Yeah, no, I can imagine it. Any other comments on that? All right, thank you, guys. So we're gonna have a budget review meeting on the 16th at 9. Everybody was okay with that? No? Oh, right, you won't be there, but everybody else will be there. Okay, great. Is Mary coming also? Great, great. Huh? The 26th, don't do that. Day after Christmas, I won't be there 9 a.m. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so we have one, right, application for liquor, tobacco, and tobacco substitute from
3 separate licenses.
application, Rawsonville. So I'll make a motion to approve the 3 licenses, one for liquor, one for tobacco, and one for tobacco substitute. Thank you, issued by the Russellville Market. Thank you, Kate. Any discussion on those applications?
And these are all for next year's license, starting in April.
Yes.
Yes.
Parker is
yes,
well
and it's a
ahead of the game.
rollover,
Yes.
it's a rollover of theirs.
And their current license, they have licenses for.
Yes, yes.
We don't get a fee anymore for that?
Yes, we do.
You already
do.
pay it?
No,
I don't know.
no, but I won't approve it till he pays it,
Right.
like through the.
So half comes to
Oh,
us.
right, because often you see that it comes in and has a check charge. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
So we're just approving.
So I don't know that we can approve it without the,
We can approve
We
it
can
pending
approve it
receipt.
pending
Approve
receipt.
it pending,
Receipt of the checks, yeah,
You
yeah.
can approve it, you can't issue it.
right,
There we go.
and I won't approve it in the portal till they pay us.
Right. Any other
Are you gonna make
discussion?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, any other discussion? No, with no discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, unanimous. All right, thank you, everybody. And then, so we will review and approve the pay orders and first I'll make a motion to approve the timesheets for the town office listers, highway and transportation.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? No discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And next is the pay orders, the warrants. All those in favor, I'll make a motion to approve the pay orders.
Second.
Thank you, Kate. Just my sidekick today. No, any discussion? No discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Great. So that opens us to public concerns. Paul is number one.
Dovetailing with your Santa Claus trip next Sunday, correct? My sister's got the Festival of Lights up at the House of Prayer up on Maori. Open to everybody. They're having apparently a choir. It's a bunch of kids are gonna sing or something. But it's for kids and families.
Caroling.
Yeah, it's starts about 4:30, sun goes down. Donuts, hot chocolate, caroling, and a lot of.
What day? Is it
Saturday or
Christmas
Sunday?
Eve?
No, it's the 17th.
Oh, it's the
17th days first.
Oh, it's the
Sunday.
Santa Day.
Sunday.
2 o'clock for Santa Claus.
2 o'clock for Santa Claus
right.
and 4 o'clock up there at the town.
I think you posted that, didn't you? So will you repost?
Yeah, it's where
Santa
it's
Claus comes in
Yeah.
on the fire truck at
Oh.
2:30
on the 17th.
on the 17th.
Yes.
And where's he end up?
At the
Where?
town hall.
Okay. Well, people might
Up
want
the
to know.
chimney.
Exactly. Yeah,
Right, exactly.
Something
Great,
coming
yeah.
down my chimney.
Because I was trying to find it, and I'm not a big Facebook user, so I'm like, well, here it is. So I thought, yeah, if you could repost it a couple more times. I know, maybe you think it's like,
No,
Too
no,
much, but
I
I
need
don't
to.
think so,
I
yeah.
thought about it this morning.
oh, okay.
And I haven't had a
Alright.
chance, so.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that your kids can come up to see Mary.
They could.
Hot chocolate and donuts. Donut rolls.
It was a very successful craft fair at the bazaar
Huge.
in the town hall. They did an excellent job. So here's money for the food pantry and a little for the Jamaica Community Arts to help pay for insurance and things like that. So that was good. I also wanted to talk about the semi-quincentennials coming up. The 250th anniversaries. So we have in 2026, the United States, 250 years since 1776. The Vermont 250th, which is sort of 2027, 1777. And then Jamaica will be 2030. So we have quite a few coming along. The Historical Foundation is about to send in for a grant from the Vermont Historical Foundation and Vermont Covered. It's a $1,000 grant that helps with planning for programs, events, and resources for the Vermont 250th. Jamaica Old Home Day, Jamaica Day, we're calling it, which is done through the Jamaica Historical Foundation. Will be in this next year, 2024 and 2025, we're going to be focusing on the Civil War. Our hope is to raise enough money for a plaque and stone to honor veterans before World War I. We have World War I, World War II, and the wars after that, but we don't have anything honoring our veterans before that. We have a couple of Revolutionary War and War of 1812, Spanish-American War, and we had 160 men in the Civil War, 10% of our population. Can you imagine 10% of our population right now going into the Civil War? We also found 2 women, one from Wardsboro, one from Jamaica, sister-in-laws, who were not counted in this because they were women. But there's a little story about them, and this recruiter came by the house to get the two men to join the Civil War, and the women said they can only go if we go. And they thought, well, that was the end of it. One had a 1-year-old baby. A little while later, the guy comes back and he says, "You're all in."
Whoa.
So off they went. One of the ladies, she was only there for a month or two and ended up getting a disease and came home and died. But the other one lived and told her story, which is what we found.
Cool.
So we're hoping to put a plaque on the common library area, church area at some point. And the next 2 years we'll be focusing on Jamaica Day with the Civil War era and having folks dress up as characters from that time. The shoemaker, the coffin maker, the doctor, things like that. So we're looking for clothing, period clothing, and items, if anybody has anything. And maybe that's about all I had.
All right.
Yeah.
Interesting, interesting. So when is Vermont? 2026?
2027.
2027.
But
And
we'll
we're
be doing
2030.
things for 2026, 27.
Okay. Yes, please.
2 public items that somebody had contacted me about, and apologized couldn't make it. She said work got in the way. One, and it echoes actually something I brought up about, like, again, I feel like I'm a broken record, but speeding, but they were mentioning specifically contractors, which I was like, oh, I've seen that too. And the contractor trucks that are going through town, contractors that are working around town, that are hauling trailers with excavators on it going, 40, 50 miles an hour, right through the village, swerving to avoid cars backing out of the store. A lot of children running around the streets. And we had talked about potentially calling contractors. I don't know if that's been addressed. As a select board, I feel like there's no other body in town to do it.
Is it Hunter and O'Brien and who is it?
Clark, Hunter, Coda and Coda, Almaden. Almaden's a big one that has been seen a lot. O'Brien and the Cottage Shop were the ones that were named to me. So,
Okay.
yeah, I've seen
Okay.
it. And I
Did they call the police? Did they call the state police?
Call the state police.
Yeah, for driving around 50, 60
Oh my
miles an hour.
God.
No, not us, them. Why does the select board have to do law enforcement?
Well, first of all, it would never work. It would
No.
never work.
No,
I
yeah,
think
but
we call
why
it, they could
We've
call the
been
state.
through this before where we're gonna
Right.
write a letter to all the contractors.
just a phone call. It's not to like condemn.
You guys can, I don't want any part of that.
But to say,
Well, I guess we also encourage
Hey, out of
people that we're
courtesy
not
to the
building
town.
conduit.
Right.
like just a courtesy and respect, not like a.
Right, but I
thing.
guess the point is like, if you do see like
I didn't
one of
ask,
these.
I didn't ask
Right.
if they called the police.
No, I'm just saying, if, these are local providers, they're all local providers, so if you
And we have
see.
relationships with them.
Right.
That's what I was,
We can, absolutely, I'm gonna be honest, we are spending some, more money right now because of, but it's not, we don't have enforcement rights, do you know what I'm saying? But.
I was thinking pre-enforcement, like
Courtesy.
out of respect.
Right,
We have
right.
relationships, we're giving bids, what, and I was told in the last 2 meetings ago that, oh, we'll just give them a call because we have relationships with them.
Yes.
If that's not the case, okay, but that's what was said.
I think it's just a function of time, like, we're all volunteering, I know for myself personally, I
I would have done it, I was told other people would do it.
oh god, yeah, you tell me,
I don't
Greg,
think we should do that in the capacity of the select board. It's just my opinion. Those guys got CDLs, they're supposed to be driving responsibly. You wanna write letters to all the plow guys, all
I was just
the
thinking,
contractors,
just
call
call
them
up,
up,
say,
see
hey,
how,
do you mind
see how
just
that
calling
works
drivers?
out. You got one of the guy's mothers sitting here, or relatives here, we're bringing up names on the camera, I don't want any part of that.
I don't understand
I don't want any part of that, you guys
it
can.
becomes conflict. what I'm hearing is, why not reach out to people that we see
Do we have
and that
friendships?
other people have
won't
contacted the
have.
select board with, to say, hey, could you please let your drivers know that they need to slow down when they're driving through Jamaica Village?
Right, so
Thank
if I
you.
could just finish
We
mine.
appreciate our partnership.
Can this was my ask. Because if I call Hunter, for example, right? It would be helpful to me if you could have whoever shared what they saw with you. I don't live right in the village, so I don't see this happening all the time. I want to be able to say, I've got 3 people who live right in the village,
That's
and they
not
see
our
the
job.
truck. You know what, Andy, can I finish my thought?
I'm sorry.
I'm happy to do it, but all I'm saying is, if you could just drop me a quick note, saying who saw it and what they saw, that's a little more than, me just saying, what? I mean, I don't see it, that's all I'm saying, Greg.
I think taking this to another level, so to speak, I guess, is that we don't address this in a confrontational way. We saw your guy.
Right.
But to address it in the fact that we are a small community, we're hearing a lot of things, there's a lot of concerns about town, it's all kinds of stuff, it's parking and people and businesses and sidewalks, and it's a collective thing.
I feel like I have to do due diligence. If I'm gonna call someone and say this is an issue, I'd like to just hear I'm not seeing it myself. That's all I'm saying. Is there an objection to that? I'm not gonna repeat it and say, Joe Blogs said he saw blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna say, I know at least 3 people who live in the village who see your trucks do this.
I'm gonna object because I brought it up personally, and I was told by this board that those calls would be made without any ask for a follow-up.
I missed that.
So I wanna say that was mentioned in the meeting, that's on record.
I don't know, doing my best.
It's not attacking anyone.
Not
It's-
anybody.
I would have told.
Collectively, yeah.
And I was told, no, don't bother, we have relationships with them. And I said, oh, great, okay. And it's not confrontational, it's partnership, collaboration. We all live here, we want to be a community that's supporting one another. Why is that in any way an issue?
A police affidavit would be much better.
Why? We don't want to get them in trouble. It's like, hey, we all live
Somebody
here.
call
Why?
the cops if they're driving 50s, fishtail and heavy equipment through.
Karen, did you have something you wanted to share?
That's not our job.
So we have the police coming in, we have a contract with them, and we had talked before about having them come in on Friday nights or at other times. Can we just ask them to be here a little more during the week when the trucks are going by? I know that in the past, when there have been complaints, when we had a little more police presence, the sheriff's office would be out there checking on traffic going by. There were quite a few complaints about people speeding with the big trucks going through. And the sheriff's department usually would say that they're checking and they are not really speeding. They look like they're going much faster than a regular car. I don't know that is, they may be speeding, I'm not sure. I don't know that calling them out in a public meeting is really the proper thing to do. And it's Amadon, not Amadon.
And we don't, short of a speeding radar detector, we don't know how fast they go.
Exactly.
Nobody does. So-
Regardless, even if you're not, 30 miles an hour is the upper limit. And I think what I'm hearing is just a courtesy call. And why not say to the contractors that we all appreciate who are doing the work, that we've offered bids to, whatever, whoever, our neighbors, literally, to say, hey, remember that there's a bus stop right there. Like, it feels like there's been a lot of trucks rumbling through really fast. We're not the police. We're not interested in being the police. We're literally just saying, hey, as our neighbors, you're driving this big equipment, please slow down. Even if that means that you're going 20 miles an hour or 15 miles an hour, not the speed limit. I don't understand.
I'd rather not involve the police. It's courtesy. It's one community, one village.
It's just common sense. If you're behind the wheel, We can't control every single person that drives through town. All towns have trouble with
I
this.
agree that calling in the police is not, it's just not gonna yield.
It's not us.
anything.
It's not the goal.
Right.
That's not-
that's not
It's not gonna yield anything, and I also think, I just personally, if I call someone and say, look, thank you for doing a great job, all of these companies that we've just mentioned, they all live here. Like literally, the principals live here,
I see
their
them
staff
every day.
lives here. Right, but I wanna be able to, I'm sorry, this is just me. I wanna be able to say, I heard from 3 separate people that you guys are going over 30 in town with the big trucks. Can you
Plus-
really reinforce to your guys to slow down? I don't think that's such a big deal. I'm happy to do it, but all I'm saying is I'm not seeing it. Because I don't live right in the center of town.
Exactly. And you've been told.
Any other,
I move we adjourn.
second? All those in favor?
Ah.
Aye.